Good evening and happy Super Tuesday. Tonight, Capitol Crossfire is live from the GW TV studios in Washington, D.C.
Joining us tonight to give their takes on these results are spin analysts Dan Salim and Liz Stoddard, as well as our election analyst Hayden Rometty. Stay with us as we receive live updates on primary results across the country.
I'm Maris.
And I'm Maria.
From the GW TV studios in Washington, D.C.
This is Capitol Crossfire.
While the Republican primary season began with 11 presidential candidates, the race is now down to only 2. Former President Donald Trump and former UN Ambassador and South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley.
Trump has bested Haley in nearly every state primary thus far, with the exception of the recent primary in D.C., in which Haley won by over 62%. Meanwhile, competition has stalled in the Democratic Party, with challengers Dean Phillips and Marianne Williamson barely cutting into President Biden's overwhelming lead.
Tonight, 865 delegates are up for grabs in Alabama, Alaska, Arkansas, California, Colorado, Maine, Massachusetts, Minnesota, North Carolina, Oklahoma, Tennessee, Texas, Vermont, Virginia, and Utah.
Will tonight's results spell doom for Nikki Haley's campaign, leaving Trump as the sole Republican candidate? Or will Haley gain momentum from her victory in D.C.? Find out with us tonight on this live episode of Capitol Crossfire. And now to our election analyst, Hayden Rometty.
Now, the polls have already closed in North Carolina, Vermont, and Virginia, while the polls just closed at 8 o'clock in Maine, Massachusetts, Oklahoma, and Tennessee. So let's take it to the big board here. So we've already got a call in Virginia here. Trump has been called to win, is projected to win the state of Virginia, and along with Joe Biden, no surprise, will also take the state of Virginia. Now, what's interesting in the state of Virginia here is Trump has got this, he's about 65.6% is his current vote total. It's about 30 points ahead of Haley here. So, I mean, it's close to about what the polls were looking like for Virginia. With the state, Virginia, originally the polls had him about 48 points ahead. So he's slightly underperforming the polls there. But if you kind of take a look down at the counties here, this is about the pattern we're going to be seeing tonight. Nikki Haley tends to perform pretty well in the more urban areas, along with a lot of college towns and such. So in Arlington County here, real close to Washington, D.C., Haley actually came in quite a commanding lead with 73% right now. And if you take a look at Alexandria, the city, she's also at 71. And then Fairfax, she's got a little smaller lead, but about 58%. So we're going to want to pay attention tonight and take a look in those, more urban counties, see how she's performing there to kind of, see how she's going to perform generally through the rest of the night. If we take a look at, let's take a look at Vermont. We got some results coming in out of there. Vermont, Trump's got a small lead, about 6 points. He's at about 51% right now. If we take a look at the county map here, Haley seems to be tends to be performing best around Burlington here. She's got about 65%. That's about 50% of the votes counted there. So she seems to be performing pretty well over there. And we kind of have some scattered parts here around the state. Trump seems to be doing pretty well in these rural areas. Not too much of a surprise. So we'll kind of pay attention tonight, see how she starts to perform once some of these counties around Montpelier come in. So we'll come back, take a look at that, see how she's doing. So at the moment, she's got a small, it seems like the lead's actually shrunk a little bit, but at the moment, she's about 5 points behind in Vermont, so it's too close to call at the moment. And the other state we have that's come in already is North Carolina. We can project that for Donald Trump as well. He's taken quite a commanding lead there with 72% of the vote, so not too surprising. He actually seems to be doing pretty well around the whole state as a whole right now. Wake County is about the only county that's really gone too favorably for Nikki right now, and so we're going to wait to see. That's only about, that's less than 2% of the vote counted in there, so we don't really have a whole lot of results coming out of North Carolina right now, so we're going to come back, take a look at that, see how that performs for the rest of the night. If we just take a look back at some of these states that we've already called a while ago, let's just take a look at D.C. real quick. D.C. we just had 2 days ago. That's Haley's biggest margin of victory right now, 62%. She pretty much doubled the amount of votes that Trump got in the District of Columbia. So this is about Haley's best performance we've seen so far. So we'll see if she can do anything similar in Vermont. But at the moment, it's not looking like it's going to be nearly as close. Trump's still up 5 points in Vermont. So we'll see. And if we take a look at Michigan, that's the state that Trump took pretty solidly back on February 27th. he had 68% of the vote there with pretty much the entire vote count. Now, yeah, that makes sense. If we take a look down here, this is kind of the pattern we're going to be seeing tonight. The big standout here of Michigan is Washtenaw County here. This is where U of M is located. It's Ann Arbor. That's where Haley performed pretty much the best. This state is gone favorably for Trump. 2016, and it was close for Biden in 2020, so not too surprising this has gone quite Trump's way here, but she still was about 5 points behind in that county, so that's kind of and if we take a look at Ingham County, that's where the capital in Michigan is, she was still behind by quite a bit there, so in some of these margins, Haley's still kind of behind, so we'll come back and take a look at Vermont later tonight, see how she's doing, but at the moment we are waiting to see. Let's see if we get any results from some of these other states coming. I think we have, let's see, I think Maine should be in here by now. Let's see if we got anything out of Maine here. Yeah, Trump still, 7-1 votes. Yeah, really not much right now. So let's see if we got any other states. Maybe, let's take Oklahoma here. It should be. Anything out of Oklahoma yet? Yeah, 2%. Oh, well, that's a surprise. We have Chris Christie is somehow has 22%. Oh, okay, maybe not. Okay, maybe not much out of Oklahoma there. So, yeah, not much right now. So we're going to take it back to the desk, see what they got for the rest of the night here.
On the left here, we have Liz Stoddard, a first-year majoring in political science. She also serves on the Student Government Association as a legislative assistant and is a recurring debater on Capitol Crossfire. Thanks for being here, Liz.
Thank you so much.
Yesterday, the Supreme Court ruled unanimously that former President Trump may remain on the ballot in Colorado and that the 14th Amendment Instructionist Clause does not preclude him from running for the presidency. Were you surprised by this ruling, and what do you think the potential implications are?
Well, I wasn't really surprised by the ruling. I think that we've seen it over and over again where the Roberts Court has multiple times shielded President Trump from further controversy. And that's what the minority opinion stated, that they were further insulating him from future controversy. I think what the question was can a state take someone off the ballot? But they went even further to say that Article 3 can only be enforced by Congress, which further outlaws any judicial authority in the matter. I think over and over and over again, we see the Roberts Court stepping further from the question on the docket and instead creating more and more novel ways to regulate, whether it's, the EPA or here. I think honestly that for a court that prides itself on judicial responsibility and judicial restraint, it couldn't restrain itself from just answering the singular question that was in this case. And it went further, I would say even too far, to the point where even Amy Coney Barrett, one of the more conservative justices on the court, stated that was not the question on the docket. And they went even further just to protect Donald Trump. And I don't think they would have done it for another nominee.
Right.
In the Michigan primary, President Biden won 80% of the vote, while 13% of voters selected the uncommitted option. As a result, Biden only won 115 of the state's 117 delegates. What implications do you think this has for Biden's campaign, if any?
Well, I think it is really showing that Joe Biden is sacrificing standing up for people in this country for trying to keep this bad faith relationship with Bibi Netanyahu. I mean, over and over and over, we see with multiple presidents spanning multiple decades, Bibi Netanyahu has not been an actor acting in good faith. I mean, multiple times Biden has tried the strategy of hug Bibi in private, hug Bibi in public, but yell at him in private. I think that when you have other governments like Britain or even Ireland or many of the Western powers in Europe even stating that Bibi Netanyahu has over and over not acted in good faith on these issues, I think that's when you really have to start thinking, is this policy working? Because I don't think it's showing any results in the Biden White House in achieving any sort of policy on the issue. Furthermore, the Arab coalition in the United States is predominantly Democratic. I mean, in 2020, it was a 64-17 pro Joe Biden, right? Now we're seeing 110,000 individuals saying I'm not committing, especially in Dearborn, Michigan, which is a very concentrated Arab population in Michigan. I think uncommitted is not saying I'm never going to vote for Joe Biden. I think it's saying change your policies and we'll talk. I think so far the way he's reacted of sending senior staffers down there to have conversations has not been effective. You yourself need to go talk to these voters of a community that have historically been persecuted by the United States government in the wake of 9/11, and yet you're not standing up for them when they say, hear us out on these policy initiatives. But instead you're sending your staffers who are just reiterating your policy initiatives. I mean, how many times do we have to see leaks from the White House of Joe Biden saying, Bibi Netanyahu's not cooperating with us, our policies are not working when we're talking about Israel? It's like, okay, your voters are starting to see that. And I think it's time to really rethink that. I mean, Hillary Clinton lost the state by 11,000 votes, and Joe Biden won it by 150,000. So really rethink your strategy here.
Great. Thank you, Liz. We're going to come back to you in just 1 second, but we're getting some results in from Tennessee, so we're going to bring it back on over to Hayden.
Oh, okay. We just can make a projection in Tennessee now. Trump will take is now projected to win the primary in Tennessee with, about 81% of the vote there, so pretty solid for Trump. So, yeah, take it back to you guys.
Great. Thank you so much. We are back with Liz Stoddard. Are there any particularly important voting groups that Biden needs to reach out to, other than like you just discussed, if he wants to increase excitement for his candidacy?
I would say the youth vote in particular. I mean, we're really seeing, even though it's positive with a 54% pro Joe Biden, that used to be so much higher. I mean, I'm really thinking that Joe Biden is, I think, too scared to at least address the issue that's happening, especially with young voters, and especially on the Israel-Palestine conflict. I think what young voters want to see is some actual movement when it comes to this policy. And I think Joe Biden is frustrated with the lack of movement when he's trying to address this situation. And yet, over and over and over again, we see him not reaching out to communities that would historically support him in November, and now you're letting them over and over again say, I don't want to vote for Joe Biden, I will vote for a third party, I won't even vote. I mean, these individuals are so important to the Democratic coalition, and yet Joe Biden and his administration ignore and ignore and ignore. And I think there has to be a time when they start to re-strategize what is working and what is not. And it's clear that the youth vote are instrumental in your coalition, and you need them on election day, especially when we're seeing negative polls over and over across every month recently. So I think that's something that maybe they need to look forward to instead of constantly reacting to these poll numbers. Actually be proactive in what they're trying to do.
Yeah, it makes me think of the big Gen Z for Biden TikTok campaign, and now it's like radio silence really speaks to that young voter aspect. Have you seen any surprises so far in tonight's results?
I haven't seen any surprises. I mean, the only thing that really surprised me was in D.C. I mean, Nikki Haley won it with about 1,274 votes. However, there are 23,000 registered Republicans in the district. So either D.C. just doesn't care to vote for you, or frankly, I think she just needs to, throw the hat in. You're not going to get enough delegates to win. And I think if she wants to come out pro-Joe Biden, anti-Trump, that's fine. But I think constantly saying, we're going to work hard and try, it's like you've been trying and you've been failing. I think it's time to see that you're probably not going to be in the running for this race. And when the only place you have won is D.C. with a minuscule amount of voters because Republicans are not interested in even participating in the process because they are either turned off or completely apathetic to it, I think you need to rethink your idea of running for the Republican nomination, because it's clear the base has spoken, as well as the RNC, which has recently been replaced by sort of Trump's cronies. So I think it's time to realize that this system is stacked up against you. You do have possibility to influence this election further. You could endorse Joe Biden. I don't think she'll do that, but I think her time in Republican politics is over. I think until Trump is sort of removed from the party as a whole, she does not have a future. So I'm thinking just take the Chris Christie way out. I mean, stand your ground or just walk into silence like, everyone else.
Great. Is there anything that you would like to be seeing in the upcoming month or so that you have not yet seen already?
I would like to see more mobilizing from Joe Biden's campaign. I mean, the TikTok was fine, but most of the comments you see is, what about Gaza? I can't afford medicine. I want to live in a place that I can afford. I think what he actually needs to do is look lively and look less like he's 81 years old. I know it's hard, but I think at that rate, you have to be visible and not answering ceasefire questions while you're eating an ice cream. I mean, I love some good chocolate chip, but I'll at least put it down if it's something as serious as that. So I think just some seriousness and also some agility, and I think some energy is needed, or else you're just going to keep trying the old 2020 methods, which were great, but the time has changed, and I think you need to change your strategy as well.
What role do you think the economy is going to play up in the next couple of months leading up into the election?
I mean, the economy thus far has been on a positive swing. Jerome Powell predicted more positive numbers in the summer. We're looking at June, July. Overall, people have been saying that, the economy has been a net positive in their lives, at least currently. I think more, focus on it. I mean, if you look at the current numbers, it's swaying in the right direction. And I think Joe Biden has the problem where everyone says, you didn't do this, but he doesn't say anything of, I did the bipartisan infrastructure deal. I did the child tax credit. I did the CHIPS Act. I'm hearing none of that. And I think at this rate, you need to show some life. And I think you need to realize that people don't care what you do unless you tell them. Most voters don't pay attention like I guess we all do. But I think that's when you need to be in their faces and say, I delivered this for you, instead of letting others say that Joe Biden has negatively affected the economy when thus far we've seen positive numbers.
What do you think Vice President Harris's role is going to be playing, leading up to the election?
I think she needs a whole rebrand. I think Kamala Harris is the most interesting person when we see her personality. When she's telling me how to make the best turkey for Thanksgiving, I'm interested. When she's telling me, her stories about her being Mamala, I'm interested. But I think oftentimes the team in the White House give her the worst jobs. I mean, her being stuck there saying, do not come in a speech is not something that I think your vice president should be handling. And I think at that rate, she needs a message rebrand. I mean, we all know that she's in a very precarious position, both as someone who needs to keep up a sort of media facade while also being judged for not only her race but her gender. But further, I think that the White House can show effort and make her more relatable and make her the star that she was destined to be. But constantly shoving her here and there to say statements that the president doesn't want to say, I don't think is the best strategy for making her appealing to voters.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time, Liz. As always, we love hearing from you. We're going to take it back to Hayden at the big board. Coming up, Hayden and I will be, we went around to GW's campus to hear what students think about the upcoming presidential election and the future president of the United States.
Super Tuesday is the day in the presidential primary cycle when the most number of states get to vote. And it has existed since the push in the 1980s to move primaries earlier up on the calendar to increase their influence over the eventual candidate. Recently, President Biden won more than 95% of the vote in South Carolina and more than 80% of the vote in Michigan. However, in Michigan, most of the votes against him were not for other candidates, but were for uncommitted as part of a campaign to protest his support for Israel's war against Gaza. However, this doesn't stop candidates from running against him, with Marianne Williamson re-entering the race for president, calling for a real ceasefire candidate, and Dean Phillips still holding in the race as of today. On the Republican side, Donald Trump continues to dominate the primaries, gaining 68.1% of the votes in Michigan and 60% in Nikki's home state of South Carolina. Despite her chances at the nomination narrowing to almost none, on Sunday, Nikki Haley walked back her support for Donald Trump if he's a GOP nominee, citing concerns with the changes of the RNC in the last couple of years. So let's see what GW students think about Super Tuesday.
What do you think about Nikki Haley's refusal to support Trump if he becomes the Republican nominee?
I think that her choice to stay in the race right now makes sense because of Trump's legal challenges.
I think she should. I think that all the Republicans who are announcing their campaigns to support him is kind of disgusting, and especially for Nikki Haley. I didn't really like her as a candidate, but I at least had some respect for her.
I think it's honorable. I don't really agree with a lot of her positions, but I think it's good that she's actually willing to stand up to Trump, because pretty much every other GOP nominee just kind of, kissed the ring once they lost.
I appreciate that she's sticking to her convictions. I don't know what it's gonna do, but the more people that are not supporting him, the better it is.
I think it doesn't matter. She doesn't have enough support. Everyone in the party is going to rally behind Donald Trump no matter if she supports him or not, I think.
What are your thoughts on Marianne Williamson choosing to unsuspend her campaign after Michigan?
I also think it doesn't matter because she has no support from either party.
I think it's kind of the best idea. I don't know a lot about her, but I know she was definitely not as strong as a candidate, and I feel like suspending her campaign is the best so that votes don't go away from candidates that matter more.
The crystals, they told her to do it. No, I'm sorry, girl. I don't think she's going anywhere, but I appreciate her trying to, she got a little bit of victory and she thought maybe she'd keep going.
I just think, she saw that she did okay in the Michigan primary, and I think a lot of that's because of, I know that Representative Omar had a lot of, a lot of the Arab American population of Michigan kind of go out against Biden just because of the whole situation in Gaza right now. So I think it's just another money grab.
Thanks, Maria. Okay, we actually have a call to make here. We can now project that Donald Trump will take the state of Oklahoma here with quite a sizable lead. Only 5% of the votes in, but he's at 77.2% of the vote there, so we can project that he's going to take that state now. Let's take a look back at Vermont. We got some action going on here, actually. We're at this Haley's lead, or Haley's trailing only about 4 points now, so Trump's lead has shrunk a little bit in the state of Vermont here. And if you kind of take a look down at the state, we're getting actually some numbers in around Montpelier here. East Montpelier, that's we got 67% of the vote there, so or 67% of the vote for Nikki there. So we're starting to get some numbers in out here. So Nikki seems to be picking up a little bit here, and we'll come back to this a little bit later. Oh, we got some numbers in out of Burlington here too. I don't know why the board is not working today, but. Take a look at that. There we go. Oh, come on. Anyway, we got, it looks still about the same margins there, 65% and then 54.5. Yeah, so she's taking a little bit of the vote in Burlington there, Montpelier. So we'll come back to that a little bit later tonight. But that race is so far, looks like less than about 3 points now. So this is about the tightest race we have tonight so far. Some of the other states we've got some numbers coming in out of here is we got Texas here. Texas we got about 25% of the vote in there. Trump has still got a very sizable lead, about 50 points, give or take 54 points there in Texas. So, not too surprising. So we'll keep an eye on that, see how that holds up. But at the moment, it's still too early to call Texas there, but we'll keep an eye on that there. If we go back to, let's see if we got anything out of Maine here. Maine, we got, we still about 628, 223, still 7, yeah. So not a whole lot of votes out of Maine right now, but Trump is kind of taking an early lead. We'll have to come back, see if we get some more numbers out of Maine. I think Massachusetts, we got some numbers in actually, though. We take a look at Massachusetts here. Not much more right now, but Nikki's taking a little bit of a lead there in Massachusetts. It's about a 89-point lead there, or 89 vote lead. So we'll see how that holds up. The Nikki campaign was really confident that Massachusetts, they put a lot of time campaigning in the state there. So we'll see if that holds up. Oh, kind of updated there. Now that leads down to about, Trump took the lead here, about 10, 12 votes there. So we'll see how this holds up. This has been a tight race here in Massachusetts. So the polls have been so far a little bit off. If we take a look at like if we look back at Vermont here, I mean, if we look at some early polls, like Trump was projected to be up about 30 points in Vermont as of the aggregate average on 538, and right now it's not looking like he's up. He's hardly holding the lead there, so she might have a chance. We'll see. We'll come back to Vermont, but I think Vermont's right now is we got to keep an eye on that. It's our closest state. So, yeah. Want to take it back to you guys? Oh, I'll actually be back at 9. We'll see if we can get some more updates on some of these other states. But yeah, for now, we'll get back to you guys there.
Dan Salim is an independent and a current sophomore studying political science and history. He serves as an undergraduate senator in GW's Student Government Association and is a private first class in the United States Army. Welcome, Dan.
Hi.
Yesterday, the Supreme Court unanimously ruled that former President Trump may remain on the ballot in Colorado and that the 14th Amendment Insurrectionist Clause does not preclude him from running in the presidency. Were you surprised by this ruling, and what do you think are the potential implications?
Well, first and foremost, I want to preface this by saying that Donald Trump, in my ideal world, would not be winning this nomination so easily. I think it's apparent that he's railroading Nikki Haley right now tonight. And unfortunately for the future. What I think is going to happen with the Supreme Court case is a good thing. I don't necessarily think I was surprised by it, simply because the justices share the same concern that I have, that kicking individuals off the ballot is going to lead to a slippery slope. I can guarantee you almost 100% that if this decision were to go the other way, President Biden would be kicked off the ballot in some deep red state, I'd say in probably 2 to 3 weeks. And that's not what this country needs right now. What I'll say on top of that is this is not the question that should have been answered by the Supreme Court. What I believe should have been asked is Donald Trump an insurrectionist by the Supreme Court's definition? They should have decided and figured out whether or not he was, and then invoked the 14th Amendment Insurrection Clause. If not, you're going to continue to be in circles saying, oh, well, we don't have enough context, we don't have enough information to kick this guy off the ballot, and it's simply not productive. It's simply not what the Supreme Court was meant to do.
All right. Nikki Haley recently said on NBC's Meet the Press that she no longer feels bound by the pledge she made to the Republican National Committee to support the GOP presidential nominee. She said that she will not feel obligated to vote for Donald Trump. How do you feel about this, as well as her recent comments about the RNC no longer being the same RNC she made the pledge to?
I mean, I think it's a very fair assessment. You got to look at the RNC from when these candidates pledged to support the eventual nominee, and you got to look at now. Number one, you got leadership changes. Look at what's happening right now. You've got Ronna McDaniels, who's going to resign on March 5th or March 8th before this RNC convention in the summer. That's very telling that the leadership is going to change, because the platforms and policies of the RNC is going to change as well. You've got to look at who's replacing her. You've got a co-chair presumptive, and her name is Laura Trump. And for those of you who don't know, she's the daughter-in-law of former President Trump. Now, if that's not a conflict of interest, I don't know what is. So with this situation, I think it's a fair assessment for Nikki Haley to say, well, I'm not going to be supporting the presumptive nominee or the eventual nominee, because that's not the same RNC I made the pledge under. Another thing that we've got to account for is this is a primary, and things can get fiery and things can get spicy, and things are spicy between Nikki Haley and Donald Trump. When Nikki Haley goes off and attacks Donald Trump for being a bad president, for being a bad leader, for saying that chaos follows him, and then Donald Trump attacks her back and calls her bird brain, and then on top of that, he doubles down by attacking her husband who's off in the military, by attacking her family, you're obviously going to get a reaction out of Haley. And Haley needs to do that. Haley can't sit back and say, oh, I'm okay with these really insults. What she really needs to do is present herself, and I think she did this far too late, as a hard-nosed alternative to Donald Trump. She cannot lay down and say, well, if Donald Trump wins, I'm just going to support him, because then that takes her whole purpose out of this race. Why are we voting for Nikki Haley anyways if she's okay with Donald Trump being the president?
Yeah, Haley also won the D.C. primary in a surprise upset, carrying over 62.8% of the vote among Republicans in the district who participated, and winning all 19 delegates at stake. This marks her first win of the primary season. Do you think this has an impact on her trajectory? Or in your opinion, does this victory give her more momentum to stay in the race?
I mean, I think a lot of political scholars knew that this was going to be the turnout, I would say weeks ahead of this primary. This doesn't give Nikki Haley momentum. What this does, it legitimizes her campaign as the alternative to Donald Trump, but it doesn't really give her any gusto. you got to look at the electoral votes. And sure, a win is a win, but Nikki Haley can win D.C. any day, and Donald Trump could win Ohio, and he could win Iowa, and he could win California, and Donald Trump would still come out on top. I would equate this almost to Michael Bloomberg's win in 2020 of Guam. We all knew Michael Bloomberg wasn't going to win the nomination, but he won and he celebrated. Do you want a cookie? Do you want a medal? Okay, let's give him that. But I don't think that he's going to push it over the edge, or Nikki Haley's going to push this over the edge with just one win in Washington, D.C.
All right, taking it from there, were there any surprises that you've seen in the results tonight so far?
I made a bet with friends before this this questionnaire, and I said Nikki Haley needs 3 states to have a path to victory, or at least to stay in this race. Those states: Vermont, Maine, and Virginia. As we just saw, Hayden just showed us, we have a okay chance in Vermont right now for Nikki Haley. So that's a little bit of a surprise to me. I thought that Nikki Haley would be crushed by Donald Trump early on, but that's not the case. So I will be looking at it very closely, as I'm sure you will be. But I think this is a very interesting race that I'm surprised about, and I'm surprised that Donald Trump is not dominating. However, when you look at things from a national level, the unfortunate news and the unfortunate indication to me is that Donald Trump still reigns over the Republican Party. His influence is going to be there for a while, which makes me disappointed in most Republicans that affirm that the idea that Donald Trump is their leader. The issue is that Republicans are turning towards this iconoclasm. They're not looking at the policies that Donald Trump is presenting. They're looking at the person, and that's very, very dangerous. That's a very dangerous populist point of view. A point of view to feed into. Because at this point in time, we are politically divided, but if we then turn things into character politics, we go into an even deeper hole.
Thanks, Dan. You've been great tonight, and we've been glad to have you on again. To close our show, let's return back to Hayden, who will give us updates on state voting.
Okay, so we'll take a look. Texas right now, I'm thinking they're going to call that pretty soon. This is he's still holding about a 54-point lead in Texas. So that's right now. That they just closed polls. They think they were 8:30 in Texas. So yeah, they're holding about 54%. Yeah. So that we'll see. We'll come back, take a look at that one soon. Vermont. Yeah, you guys did mention Vermont here. Vermont is tightened up, actually. We're down about 2.5% in the percentage difference here. So let's see if we got any new counties coming in here. We got about the same here, I'm thinking. Around here, we got 65% for Haley. Oh. Yeah, 65% around there. We're still holding this. 62, yeah. So it's 54 there. So yeah, we're holding strong around some of these numbers. Okay, we'll see. Yeah, Burlington seems to be coming in pretty good right there. We kind of take a look at some of these other states here, because we just had some polls close at 8:30 here. Now, Alabama, we've had some numbers coming in for a little bit here. Still not much. It's a very strong lead for Trump here with 329 to 52. So not a whole lot of votes coming in there, but still a little bit of a lead there. Let's see if we got anything coming in. Maine was or Massachusetts was kind of a state I was taking a look at earlier. Yeah, it's still kind of holding kind of strong here. Like I said, the Haley campaign was really they're talking up Massachusetts like they were working hard there. They had running a lot of campaign events there. So it looks like they've kind of so far kind of made a little bit of difference here. I mean, if we look at the polling for Massachusetts, actually, there was about a 36.8% difference on the average aggregate polling of 538 originally. So this is quite a bit of a difference from what we were originally expecting to see here in Massachusetts. So it looks like the Haley campaign is really come in and made kind of a difference there. Now, we gotta get both sides. We'll take a look at the Democratic side real quick. Joe Biden's picked up let's see here, about 8 states right now. So he's got North Carolina, Oklahoma, Tennessee, Iowa, Maine, Massachusetts, Vermont, and Virginia. And they're all about a sizable lead here. I think his closest one here is actually in Massachusetts right now, where he's got 82.4%. So about as close as gets for Joe there. So really not a whole. We're not looking at a whole huge, the undecided is kind of taking the lead over Dean Phillips and Marianne Williamson in most of these states, actually. If we look at Vermont here, I think the undecided has got, let's look at the Democratic side here. Undecided, yeah, okay, so they don't have an undecided here in Vermont, but Marianne Williamson is taking second place by a very long distance second place, but, this kind of follows about a general pattern. Marianne Williamson has been taking over Dean Phillips for second, third, and generally if there's a, undecided, that's going to take over both those candidates. We take a look at Virginia here. We're looking about the same situation here. Yeah, 88.5%. So Joe Biden's doing pretty well in most of the states. Not too surprising. He's performing about as well as we expected him to do so. If we kind of take a look back at some of these other states here, I want to just take a look at Vermont here. I want to remind everyone, if we look at some of the numbers from 2020, okay, so Nikki Haley's actually taken a lead here in Vermont with about 36% of the vote in here. So she's at about 48.3 to 48.1, 48.4 now. So it's about a little less than 100 vote difference there. I just want to remind everyone, if we take a look at the Vermont from 2016, Trump was running against his two big opponents. There were John Kasich and Marco Rubio, which Donald Trump in 2016 only took the state by about 2.5 percentage points there. So this could be a challenging race for Donald Trump to pick up here. I think, if he in 2016 was any indicator of how he's going to perform this Super Tuesday, I think Trump is going to have to work hard to pick up some of those voters in some of these bigger counties here. I mean, Haley's picking up some of these voters out in Tredford County or whatever, out in the rural West Windsor. She's making the quite a difference here. I mean, 58.6 to 36.8. I mean, these are not huge. These are not huge numbers, but I mean, they're substantial. If you look at some of these other states, Trump is generally takes a lot of these rural areas. We go back to Virginia. I mean, I don't mean to bring it up too much, but I mean, Trump he's kind of taken pretty much the whole state. I mean, she's got like the city of Richmond here and like one county, Charlotte County here, and then she's got the counties up here by Washington D.C. here, which she took by a very sizable margin, like Arlington County here, Alexandria City, over 70% for both of them. So, it's we're gonna kind of take a look at that and see. I mean, she's So I mean, I would be for the Trump campaign. I would really hope that we see some more numbers coming in down in some of these rural counties, because Haley's doing generally better here than she has performed in most other states. I mean, if we just take a look real quick, take a look back at let's see if we got anything else coming out of Texas here. I mean, Trump is pretty much holding that lead. Yeah, still about a 54% difference there. Trump is holding strong in many of these big cities here in Texas, so not too surprising. But I mean, just compared to like Vermont here, I mean, Trump has been pretty solid. If we just take a look, see if we get any numbers coming out of these states closed in at not really anything right now. And Massachusetts, yeah, still not a whole lot. So about a 5-point. Yeah, Massachusetts still holding kind of close there. So I mean. I keep an eye on Massachusetts and Vermont tonight. They're two. Haley's, she's got best chance in probably those two states right now. And if we can see if Minnesota's got anything in, not really. So, with the general, just take real quick at Alabama. Yeah, not much there. So, yeah. We'll see. So I'd say tonight, if you're a Nikki Haley supporter, you're going to want to pay attention to. Massachusetts and Vermont going to be the two closest states tonight. So thank you guys for having me on. It's been a great night on Capitol Crossfire here in GW TV studios. I'll hand it back to you guys over there.
Thank you all so much for joining us this evening. As always, you can check us out on Instagram and TikTok at GW Capitol Crossfire. And you can check us out at www.gw-tv.com.
From all of us here at GW TV, I'm Maris.
And I'm Maria.
Thanks for getting caught in the crossfire with us.
We'll see you back here next time.